I'm Scott Hess, tax and business consultant.
I'm John Barton, small business owner. Remember the tortoise and the hare? Slow and steady wins the race.
We started Turtlesmith to help people start small businesses, providing information and resources to small business owners and entrepreneurs.
Build a solid foundation and forge your dreams.
This is always annoying to ask, but if you're liking this content, please like and subscribe. It's the best way for us to get more followers and more people engaged in this great business content. You can also follow us on all socials at TurtlesmithOK and find us at turtlesmith.com. Well, what's going on, man? Back for another one of these?
Yeah. We are, what are we talking about today? Cryptocurrency, right?
I think so. Yeah. Calvin's got some stuff on it. It's exciting. What are we talking about, Calvin? Just give us the intro.
So mainly I just have one overall question that I want us to get to the end of by the end of this conversation. Do small businesses hold the key to crypto becoming more widely accepted? The reason I say this is because right now up to about 34% of small businesses have started to accept cryptocurrency, and there's more and more growing ways to be able to do it as a regular in-person transaction. So just want to get you guys' thoughts on it.
34% just seems really high, but maybe
to me it does too.
Maybe it just hasn't hit Oklahoma yet. We're usually a few years behind on some of the trends that the coast is experiencing.
I can't remember the last time I was at a business when crypto was offered as one of the payment methods.
I don't think I've ever seen it. I have in Vegas. I did see like the crypto ATMs, but I've never seen.
Now I've seen
them
that
take crypto,
and we do have an ATM in our business that will pay out in cash from a crypto account if you type in the right information. I think it's Bitcoin or something.
That's pretty interesting.
And I've also seen the ATMs that will accept money, a deposit into Bitcoin or some other crypto.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I've not seen very many businesses, including ours, that take crypto that's even been offered on the POS.
Well, I really should know a lot more about crypto, but I never kept up with it. I never paid attention to it when it was exploding. A lot of people in college told me I needed to buy some Bitcoin, and I thought they were dumb, and now I'm the dumb one.
I was the same way as back in when I was back in China in the early 2000s, and I started to see this chatter about Bitcoin and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I actually went to try to buy like $100 worth of Bitcoin. I just thought, what the heck, throw 100 at it. And that was back when it was like $1 or $1.50 a Bitcoin or something.
Jeez, yeah.
And the thing that scared me away was back then, the only real way to buy it was to go through some like dark web kind of link or something, to get to it. And I just felt like that at that same time, I was kind of reading about like the Silk Road, was kind of active back then.
Right.
And I thought, I don't want to be in China and somehow get connected to this, like by buying this cryptocurrency.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it just sounds ominous anyway, cryptocurrency, right? Mm-hmm. And
well, it did back then, and now it's just sort of in the lingo.
Yeah, now it is. And then I started to hear about, then you see all these exchanges getting hacked and people losing all their money, stuff like that. So I have to say that I'm one of those people, that thought about it but never did it, and here we are.
Yeah. Well, and I hear so many people like me thinking like, oh, I should have bought some when it was like 10 cents a coin. I could have spent $500 to buy some, but I would have sold it when it hit $3 or $10.
Yeah.
$1,000. I wouldn't have waited till it hit 500 or 100,000 unless I forgot.
I remember, I read a lot back then about it, and people were paying stuff like, 50 Bitcoin to get a pizza delivered.
Yeah, I think that was the first transaction. Is Calvin was showing me that the other day. Somebody spent it was like 10,000 Bitcoin transferred to another person's wallet, and then that person ordered them a pizza, 2 Papa John's pizzas.
Yeah,
he used his credit card. Obviously Papa John's wasn't taking Bitcoin, but that was the first recordable transaction with Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, man, is that it's definitely being used commerce, for regular commerce.
Right.
There are people and ways that they're transferring it to cash and they're able to use cash. People have, I think they have like debit cards that just do auto conversion now, so you can just go to a store and pay, and it'll just deduct your Bitcoin and charge, pay the vendor the $35 or the $100 or whatever it is that they want.
From the vendor side though, it's just like taking
it's just like a debit card.
Yeah,
it's just like, all they see is the US dollars, and then you get it out. It just debits at whatever exchange rate it is.
Right.
That's like me going into a foreign country and paying with a credit card. I'm going to pay the amount they want plus whatever the exchange fee was.
Right. Well, I think the central question that Calvin asked us is small businesses really the driving force behind crypto becoming a legitimate currency in businesses? And I think it's probably not. I think it's the corporations. I think once Walmart starts accepting it, it would filter out to the rest of the small businesses.
I tend to agree with you on that. Because that's when it just becomes that ubiquitous everywhere. But I do think that small business can be a big driver of it as well. I'm just not so sure that it's not already, that way, because of people being able to just get, like I said, get the debit cards and things like that. Any of these crypto exchanges, I believe, offer debit cards these days.
I think that's
true. I could
be
wrong about that, but I think that I've seen some.
No. There's a few that do, and I know that it just can trade it in real time, and the volatility though is kind of what scares me, because you go and you pay, you pay for something on a debit card and it takes a day or so to hit your bank, and it might go up or down. You never know how much you're actually spending.
Well, the debit card stuff, I think, hits right away. Debit card is like pretty much same day. And I assume that, I'm assuming this, but I'm not sure, but I assume that like if you pay from some sort of a wallet or something, that you can do like a NFC transaction.
Right.
My kids, they just pay by their phone all the time. China's been years ahead of us on that. Almost nobody carries cash in China anymore, and they do. A lot of those places over there already accept crypto.
I hate that. I love cash.
And what's funny is we could go into this too, but the volatility of money is, an economic term that I'm sure you're well familiar of, but I'm sorry, not the volatility, the help me out here. Acceleration of money. Thank you. And it always comes back to me, like when I see these memes that say, spend cash with your local businesses, right? Because that guy gets $100, he hands it to someone else, it's still worth $100, right? And if you give somebody $100 paying with a card, right, then they lose. I say lose, but they're charged like 2 or 3%. So let's call it 3%. They lose $3. So now they've only got $97 to pay with, and then they turn around and buy something from a vendor with a card, cost $100.
They take $3.
There's $3 gone there, and then so it doesn't take very long before 30 transactions before the whole 100 is gone, and that's owned by the people who are offering to pay with credit cards or offering to accept credit cards.
Right.
Whereas that $100, if it were just goes that whole 33 transactions, just $100 being passed around,
still $100.
It's still $100.
Yep.
And so that's what we should be doing, but most of us, myself included, just go for convenience.
Yeah, I mean, I pay for most stuff on my credit card, even though everybody gets charged, but it is convenient.
Yeah, that's it. It's the convenience that does it. The credit card companies also are not so strict about identity when you use credit cards, because they really want more transactions and less transactions. They'd rather have less of a barrier to spending money.
Yeah.
And I found that out, because we take so many credit cards and everything, and once in a while we have to deal with a scam or two. And
well, it's not so hard. They make enough money that they're happy to help you resolve most fraudulent stuff pretty quick.
Yeah, it's actually a very small percentage of credit card use. So they'd rather have the giant amount of usage.
Yep.
And then just, refund the ones that are actual scams or something.
Yeah. Well, as we were looking into this episode, I looked at a couple different processing systems. One of them called BitPay. very reasonable compared to other kind of processors. But the one thing that I didn't like, and the one thing that doesn't happen when you use your credit cards and stuff, is they charge both the vendor and the customer a fee every time they do a transaction. So it's about 25 cents plus like 3% per transaction to the vendor, which that is, I think it was 2% if you had less than a $500,000 a month. And then it went to like 1% if you had over $1 million a month was the BitPay deal. But they charge the customer 1% every time they use their card, or every time they use their Bitcoin or their cryptocurrency to make payment. So it's getting them on both sides.
I kind of see that as a fair thing, I mean,
it's a processing fee, and I mean they're probably not making a killing off that, but
Yeah. The other thing that I think small businesses need to worry about would be the laws surrounding crypto and making sure that that stuff is accounted for. Some people like to just hold it in whatever account it's being held in, and they may not realize that that should be treated as income and accounted for accordingly.
Well, it's only income and taxable when you sell. So if you hold on to the Bitcoin as it rises in value, there's no transaction. But it does bring up a good point. If you're using a card every time you make a purchase, technically you sell a little bit of Bitcoin every time you make a purchase, right? Because they transfer it to cash. And so that would be, I think it would be a capital gain every time you purchase something.
That would be worth looking into as an accountant. I mean,
I just thought about that. That'd be crazy. Cause so technically the IRS talks about crypto as that every time it is sold, it's a taxable event. And just kind of like if you're selling a stock or anything like that. So when you transfer it from crypto into cash, then it becomes taxable. And you take your cost basis and you take the proceeds of the sale price minus the cost basis, and that's your capital gain or loss. And so I wonder, as they do that, like if you have a debit card, I wonder if as they do that all year, hundreds of transactions that you have to spend to survive, eating out and doing stuff. I wonder if each one of those is technically a sale.
I mean, the way you've explained it, it sounds like it would be.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's like imagine if you had a debit card for your stocks account, right?
Yeah.
And your stocks could be converted to cash. Essentially, the stock would be transferred. A little bit of stock would be transferred to the person you're buying from, right? So they would own stock. And if that stock didn't get converted into cash for them right away, if it got converted into cash, then it would be as if you converted it into cash and gave cash, right?
All right. As your accountant, if you're accepting BitPay and all that and doing stuff, that we're going to hate you. That's going to be a real pain in the butt to go through and check all that stuff.
But I mean, that's what it would be, right?
Yeah.
So if I handed you something that was,
because it's not a currency. It is, but it's technically under the rules. It's not. You have to convert it.
Yeah, because it is a appreciable asset or depreciable depending on that's like the stock market.
Right.
Like stocks.
That's interesting. Interesting to think about.
That would be an interesting question to look up.
Yeah. Well, what are your thoughts? Are you ever going to take crypto at your place? Would you take crypto?
I mean, I would if it felt like something that I thought that people were asking us to do.
Yeah. What if somebody just like, hey, I want to buy a case, but can I just give you some crypto for it? Like right today, would you accept that, or probably?
I would probably see if I could accept it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind holding a little bit of it. I don't know.
Yeah. Fair enough.
That'd be interesting to see if I took like $300 in crypto and then just let it sit and see what happens.
Yeah. Well, I think we're still, even though 34%, like Calvin said, of small businesses are taking crypto. I wonder if that means, through like a credit card system or something like that. I can't imagine that they are actually accepting Bitcoin as Bitcoin, but maybe some of them are.
They don't. There's always, you can't, as far as I understand it, you can't really spend Bitcoin directly.
Right.
I should say it differently. You can, I think there are ways where you could possibly transfer from your wallet to someone else's wallet.
Yeah.
Without intervening help. But I think most of it is done by exchanges that specialize in this. And that's where they skim a little bit of money each of those transactions.
Right.
And looking up a lot of this stuff, that's actually one of the three options that I think is most commonly used. One is a integration on the POS system itself. The other one is an exchange on third party marketplaces. But there is a direct one where there's, the business, if the business has their own crypto wallet set up, they just post a QR code right there next to the register, and they can scan it and be able to do the transaction wallet to wallet.
Yeah, that seems the easiest way, and then you could probably do it without fees if you wanted to. That would be attractive, I think, because that would be one thing where, well, we don't charge fees when people use credit cards, but one big thing that has been happening these past several years is this whole alleged, cash discount scam where they basically, it's a way to add 4%, which is charging consumers more than they would normally be charged. And giving them a cash discount of 4%.
Yeah.
Or basically they don't even say the percentage. They just say there's a cash price and there's a cash discount price. And the thing is that the way that these things work is why it's scammy is because you're not actually you're giving them a cash discount by paying cash, but they already know that most people are just going to whip their card and pay it without thinking about it or caring about what the fee is, right?
Maybe.
So what happens there is that the cash discount, all they're doing is putting a sticker on the register that says, hey, if you want to pay a little less, pay cash. So anybody could do this themselves, right? They could just make all their prices 3% more and then back it off to minus 3% or 3.2 or whatever it is, without needing any third party.
Right.
But the third parties come in and they set it up where they basically have a cash discount button on your POS.
Oh.
And it makes it seem like, oh, look, I'm saving a lot of money because I'm not paying these fees. But every single time a customer pays the fee, they go ahead and use their card, then they're actually ending up paying more, the 4% instead of 2.5 or whatever it is. And so it basically puts the onus on all the customers that paid cash. The ones that paid by card are basically making up that difference.
Yep.
From what they would be, if it was just on average. If everybody was. So if you were able to do Bitcoin with a direct transaction with no fee between the customer and you, just like they're paying cash, then that would be very attractive, I think, to small businesses.
It would be clean. I don't think that there's any way we're convincing the older population to adopt crypto as a regular deal. And so I think we're still a generation or two away from that becoming fully mainstream.
What annoys me more actually is when businesses and individuals in business or even in side hustles, right? They have, there are about 4 or 5 major ways that you can pay electronically now. PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, several things like that. It annoys me when businesses don't take advantage of all those different ways. If someone walks up to me and they want to pay me with Cash App or they want to pay me with Venmo, I'm like, yeah, every which way possible. I mean, there's probably some very obscure ones out there that I don't take, but all the major ones I take. And it just drives me nuts. Or you buy on Facebook Marketplace and someone's like, cash only, and I'm like, Venmo doesn't charge any fees. Cash App doesn't charge any fees. PayPal charges fees unless it's friends and family, but you could do friends and family on, just about everybody.
Yeah,
so
it's still, I think like $4.
No, it's not. It's not any money for friends and family.
There you go.
And I mean, they will charge friends and family if you're like a business and you're trying to get around the fees by doing it, then sometimes they'll say, well, because you're paying to a business account or someone's paying to your business account, then there's going to be a fee.
I guess that's why I get charged. I was thinking I've done the friends and family. It's like $4.99 on my PayPal, but I have a business PayPal.
Right. I do too, but it's kind of in the way you do it sometimes.
Yeah.
So
fair enough.
But anyway, like I said, Venmo and Cash App and Facebook payments are all no fees.
Yeah.
So
well, I think that's one of those things that we talked about in several episodes where we say you need to have as many ways for customers to pay you as possible.
Apple Pay.
Yeah.
I pay with my phone now all the time, a lot with Google Pay.
But To be
Google
fair,
Wallet.
I don't do that though. I only really take check or cash. That's all I want. I don't want any credit cards, and I don't do Venmo or Cash App or Zelle or any of that stuff. In fact, I've Zelled you a few. Have customers Zelled you a few times for me, just because they're like, "This is the only way," and I'm like, "Fine."
I mean, it's just like one of those things where you're breaking down the barriers to getting paid.
Yeah. All right. Well, I personally am going to do a little research on accepting wallet to wallet Bitcoin for my business. That seems interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you could literally, I believe, even with NFC these days, someone could just literally tap your phone and boom, there you got your Bitcoin or whatever.
That is very interesting. Little QR code, they could just pay you right to your
Now
wallet.
there are different cryptos that people are using, so it's not just Bitcoin anymore. Ethereum is big.
Oh, right.
Doge might still be going. I don't know.
Yeah. I think I own some Shiba Inu somewhere. I don't know if that's ever going to do anything.
Yeah, Shiba Inu was there. So I mean, I think I have a little bit left. I actually have a sad Bitcoin, other than not buying it when it was cheap.
I think everybody has that story though. Everybody has that. Somebody told them about it one time way back in anywhere between 02 and 10, and they said you should buy some.
Well, my sad story is that like back in the 2012ish era or so, I was saving money in like a Robinhood or one of those accounts, and then so part of it was in crypto. And at one point, I was like, I don't know, $1,700 up in crypto from what I had put in. And I lost a gambling match, so I had to pull all my money out of my savings, which was around. I had made about 3,000 overall over a period of about 2 years or so.
Yeah.
And so I took that all out plus the original money that I put in, which was the total account was only $5,000, and had to pay it out for the gambling loss.
That is a sad crypto story.
But that was when that's when Bitcoin was like 38,000. And now it's what, like 80 grand or something?
Yeah.
So had I left it in there,
you would have doubled your money.
I would have, had $4,000 profit or something. So,
all right.
And it was only at that point, like 0.17% of one Bitcoin.
Yeah.
This is cheap.
Well, any final thoughts on crypto and small businesses? I think to answer the main question again, or to reiterate, I do not think that small businesses are going to be the driving force in crypto adoption as like everybody adopting it. I think it's going to be a niche thing for probably another generation. And then if it's still around, like your kids, and will probably really take it off. And once it's accepted by larger corporations, then it's just going to filter out everywhere.
I just wonder though, is it always going to be, if it's accepted everywhere, like money, normal money, right? Obviously governments want their cut, one way or the other.
Yeah. They're going to have to figure something out.
So at that point, is it more or less just the same as regular money?
I think so. I think
the whole idea behind at least the Bitcoin was that there's a finite amount out there. It gets harder and harder to mine more of it,
which increases the value.
Right. And then, we've had these whole conversations about Bitcoin miners, using as much energy as a small town. That's not going to get any, I wonder, like all these big data centers they're putting in for,
are just for Bitcoin.
Well, I bet they could, why wouldn't they like dedicate a part of that towards mining Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Like what would be easier than giant corporations who are already running these big data centers that are using tons of energy to use a portion of that energy to mine Bitcoin? It's so hard, but they've got all the computing power.
It makes sense.
So, I mean, but I guess the only thing that keeps it, well, what I was trying to say is Bitcoin keeps going up and up and up, right? So, and it fluctuates and goes down, and has big swings once in a while. But my thinking on that is like, is it the fact that it's finite that it's going to just continue to rise at, and always be worth more? But we're transacting in tiny fractions of Bitcoin. So because we're doing that, doesn't it just become like money?
Yep.
I mean, because the money itself is worth less now than it was, years ago it was worth more, right? Now paper money is worth less.
Right.
Am I reading this wrong, or am I going too far deep in it or whatever? I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think you're thinking about it correctly, but I think just the fractions that we own will continue to become less and less and less, and a Bitcoin becomes worth more and more. But I think it'll just be equivalent to like money. It'll just be depending on how much Bitcoin you own. Like eventually it'll be like, you know, $1 will be like 0.000000001 Bitcoins.
Right. That's, I think, what I was getting at.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, because it'll be tied basically to the dollar or whatever currency that it is, because you're exchanging it for that.
Right.
So it's just like any other currency.
Just like any other currency.
Okay. That's where I was going.
Fair enough. Well, check us out, turtlesmith.com, at turtlesmithok at all of our socials, and see you next week.
All right. You guys take care.